everyone. I hope you all are doing good. Hello, everyone. So, have you guys all those who were present in yesterday's session and the day before yesterday's session? Have you guys tried building something around what we can say the part that we have studied, the HTML and the CSS part? Have you guys tried something or practiced a little bit that we studied? Meanwhile, let me just set up the notes and we'll quickly start with today's session. Okay, give me a minute. If you have any doubts from yesterday or day before yesterday's session, you can ask. Uh, I'm open for discussions right now, and then we'll continue. Okay. Hmm. Okay, I am presenting my screen. Okay. So, in the yesterday's session and the day before yesterday's session, we studied a little bit about what is web development, how we proceed with web development, what is the request and response cycle that we have, and how we write basic HTML code, what are different headings, what is the meaning of paragraph, p tag, and we studied a lot of paragraphs in HTML. Then we studied how we can create forms, how we can create tables. So all of these things we studied in like yesterday's class. Okay, so give me a minute. Hmm. Okay, so what I was saying was we studied how we can create simple websites using HTML. Then we studied about CSS. What are the different methods of writing CSS? The first one is the inline style, in which we can add styles on the tags. Also, the only we can add it like tags like this. We can add it, and then we studied the second method, which is using a style tag. The third was by creating a new file and similarly adding attributes just like this and connecting this particular file with our HTML file by using the link related to style sheet format. So these were the three methods that we studied. Then the next thing we studied was how we can implement these different types of colors. So there are three methods of writing colors. The first one is the RGB value, the second one is the hexacode value, and the third one is by using the name notation of the colors. So this was the thing that we studied. And then yeah, what we studied was all of these things we have covered. Then we studied some of the text properties, like what exactly is text alignment, what is font weight, like we can make text bold, we can make text lighter. We studied about text decoration, which is basically used for adding underlines to our code. Then we studied about line height, Then we covered a little bit part about the letter spacing, and then we studied a little bit about font size. Then we had gone to how we can add font family, and I also showed you the some of the web pages in which we can like see t- like if we go to Google Fonts, then we'll be able to import those fonts to our code, and then we can specifically use them for beauty for making our like website beautiful, right? So these were the things that we studied in yesterday's session. Then we studied what are selectors, how there are different types of selectors in HTML, in CSS. The first one is the universal selector, which selects basically everything that is present on your document. The second one was element selector, which selects an element and then specifically adding style attributes to it, which we are generally using right now. Then we had the third type, which is the selector list, in which we can add the same styles to more than one element selector. Then we had the ID selector, like we can give a name to our we can give an ID to our element or a tag, and then we can specify property and style according to it. Then we had a class selector, which specified how we can uh, it specified how we can add a class property to our tag and then specify the styles in it. Then we had the descendant selector, the adjacent selector, direct child, and everything. These all we studied in yesterday's class. This was the important part that I told you, that these are the pseudo classes, and we also have some pseudo elements for them. So this was the thing that I asked you all to like try playing around and practice a little bit. And then this important property of CSS, that is a cascading style. They had three things. The first one was that if I have written it like this, like two times, and color is red, then the second one will have more preference as compared to the first one. So heading color H1 color will always be purple because it is written afterward. That's why this is called cascading property. Then we studied about specificity, which means that if ID and class both are present for the same HTML element, then ID will be given more preference. Okay, attribute, pseudo class, and everything, ID will be given more preference. And then comes the class, attribute, and pseudo class. They will be given more preference than element and pseudo element. So this is the important classification that we studied, and that's how CSS works. Now this will only take place in the attributes which are conflicting. So which means attributes that are conflicting, which means that only on same H1 they all will work like this. Then yeah, inline CSS has the maximum specificity. That's why we don't use it that often, because this will overlap every other style that we have. So we don't use it that often because this will have maximum priority. Okay, and anywhere if we add this symbol, not an important symbol, then our browser will overwrite every other declaration, no matter how specific it is by default. Okay, so that was the important part that we studied. Then we studied about the box model, like what is border, how we add border, what is the shorthand for adding the border, what exactly is meant by padding. We studied that padding is the distance between content and the content and the border, content box and the border. Then we studied about the margin, and we also studied about the height and width. Then we had the display property, in which we had three properties, basically the inline property, the block, and the inline block. So if you have the display property of an element as inline, you won't be able to add box model styles to it. Okay, you won't be able to add width, height, margin, padding, and border to it. And if you have block display, then you will be able to add width and height. You will be able to add uh, border, padding, and margin, but they will take the whole horizontal space that is present. So all the things that will come, they will be in a vertical format. So best of the both words is using inline block. So this will give the good properties of both. Okay, so this is what I have written here. Display inline, it can make block level elements behave like inline elements. Okay, and some in these are some examples of inline elements that we have here, like width and height is ignored and everything, padding is respected, but it does not displays the rest. Okay, so this is the thing that we studied right now. Give me a minute. uh, just a minute. Okay, so yeah, let me just share my screen again. uh, is my screen visible? If you can respond, it will be helpful for me if you guys can tell me if my screen is visible or not. Okay, okay. Give me a minute. I need to check it once. Just wait for a minute or two and then we'll continue because I have to take the permission for sharing screen again. Actually, okay, guys, is it visible now? Uh, I think it's visible now. Okay. Yeah, so what I was saying was that we can add these inline and display properties respectively to like solve the issue of either using inline or using block. We can use inline block for that purpose. Okay, so we studied a very important part, that is units. So in css there are two types of units, the absolute unit and the relative unit, right? So in absolute unit comes pixel, centimeter, inch and mm, and you can write this and you can accordingly add like change the size of your elements. And if you want relative, like they should change according to width of your browser, then you will use percentage m and rem. Okay, now if your width percentage is 50%, for example, then it will cover half of your parent element, right? So I also told you that what is the parent child element. So suppose you have h3 inside the div, then your div will be your parent of h3 and h3 will be child. So that's what I am referring here, that this percentage of 50% will cover half the width of the parent element. Okay, so sometimes it's percentage of an element, not the parent. So where is this case, like percentage of the element not the parent? It's generally in cases of fonts and the text properties basically. So we don't use percentage in text properties, we only use percentages for adding width and height of the elements, right? So this was the thing that we studied. Then m is like it takes the size, font size same as of that of parent, and if you add 2m then it will take twice the font size of the parent. So we generally use it with padding and margin and everything of that sort. We don't use it anywhere else. And rem, they are generally used for fonts. So these all things we studied. Now we are trying to move to the new part, which is the opacity and the alpha channel. So what exactly is this? So if you look very closely, we studied in the yesterday session about the RGB values, right? We studied about red, green, blue values. If I add one more parameter in this color with A, then I will be getting a name alpha, right? So what this means, if you want to like change the transparency of your uh, element, for example you want to change the transparency of your div to a little bit, like you want it to be a little bit transparent, so what you can do, you can add the RGBA color value here. For example, here this is olive dap color. So if I just do this and I say RGBA, and here let me add, I need to add in my fourth parameter any number between 0 and 1. So if I say 0, okay, and I save this, go back to my index.html. Let me check where is index.html. This is styles.css, right? Let's start with this. Okay, so this is my index.css. Here some of the style is being applied. Background color is brown. Okay, let me open this code. The linked HTML file is this. I will copy the path and I will paste this in the browser. Okay, so this is the brown div that I have. Now what I am saying is, we have the RGB value, right? So let me just close this and just open the my index.css file. So here what I will do is I will add this RGB thing, and I will say RGBA, and let me change the transparency to somewhat zero. Okay, I have added this. Let's see if we see any change or not. So you can see now, as I have added zero here, the background color of my div has gone. It has vanished, right? So for distinguishing, let me add one border also. I will add a border of 2 pixel, solid, and my border color will be black. Okay, I have saved this, and then if I go back and I click on refresh, so you can see I have this div, but I don't have color inside this, right? And let me change it to 1, and I click on refresh again. So you can see this color is now come back. So what exactly is happening? So if you want to change the transparency or like opacity, I think you guys know the meaning of transparency and opacity. I suppose you know the meaning of this. And if I change it to some mid value, for example 0.5 for that sort, and I go back, click on refresh, so you can see now the background color is reduced 50%, right? So this is the meaning of alpha channel. I can also increase this. I can, if I make it zero point 0.8, these values will always remain between 0 and 1. So this will be more like more opaque side, and if I want to it to be more transparent, then I will go to transparency side, right? If I click on refresh, so you can see it's becoming more transparent. So this is the meaning of opacity. Okay, now yeah, so let me open it here. So now if you have written 1, that means opaque, and if you have written 0, that means transparent. So RGBA will only affect the property it's called for. What this means, like suppose I have called the transparency for background color only. So only my background color will be affected with it. Okay, my background color will reduce its opacity due to this alpha channel, right? That's what they are describing right now. Let's suppose I don't want this. Okay, let me just remove it once from here. Okay, and I go back to make it where it was, like it was here. Now what I want this whole div, right, including this heading, to be transparent. Okay, how can I achieve that, including border and everything that is present? So in that case I will use another property of CSS, which is opacity, and here I will define, let's suppose I want 50% opacity only. If I go back and I click on refresh, then you can see now my text is also become a little bit transparent than it was before. Okay, so this has reduced a lot, right? So this you can also reduce this, like make it zero point 0.2, and if I go back, click on refresh, you can see it has become more transparent. So that's the difference between RGBA and opacity. Okay, so it's see, and the value that we specify in the opacity is also same as the alpha channel that we were describing, 0 to 1, right? One more important thing, we can use alpha channel with hexa colors also. Okay, so suppose this is the color code. Okay, the last 00 value that we have, it describes that our value is transparent, and if in place of 00 I write ff, then it will mean opaque. Okay, so I can also use alpha channel with hexacolors. So I hope this part is clear to all of you regarding what we say. Yeah, I hope this part is clear regarding the alpha channel and the opacity, all of you. Okay, fine. So Now, okay, now we'll study a little bit about the position properties in CSS. So that's this is a very important concept, and without this, it's very difficult for style to like style things around on the code. So just look very closely on it. Let me just paste it somewhere here. Okay, so I have created this particular HTML file which has a, let me zoom it a little bit. This has a parent. Okay, this blue div that we have here is the parent, and this parent has three childs here. This is the one, this is one. Okay, this green color, two and three. Okay, so I have defined one HTML. Let me show you the code of this also. So everything is same, doc type HTML, then link related to style sheet, and then some of these styles are being applied here. Okay, and then this parent class. Okay, so here we have added the display inline block property and everything, and child one property, background color, everything we have specified here. Now div class we have given parent, and inside we have child one, okay, class, and child class, child 2 class, and child class, child 3. We can add more than one class, so that's what we have done here. And this consequently we have this particular code. Okay, if you have to define alpha channel, how will we do? I specified it here, right? You have to like specify alpha channel, so you can add designated number of your choice. And if you want like a particular transparency, then you can add that number. You can also search it how much transparent you want, right? So you have to write in place of the RGBA, you have to write a here and specify that value here. See here I have defined this alpha channel. Alpha channel refers to the numerical value which is from between 0 and 1. I hope this clears your doubt. Or if you are asking how we can define alpha channel, like what exactly. So alpha channel represents the numerical values between 0 and 1, which defines your transparency of your element. Okay, so yeah, so I was saying that we are now able to create this particular HTML document and see it on our screen. Okay, now the linked CSS file to it refers to styles.css that we have here. Okay, this particular property. Now here we have added a position relative property which is new to us. We have not studied yet about it. So okay, so we'll study all the position properties one by one. So it determines how an element is positioned in a document. Okay, so it defines the position of element on the HTML document. Let me just explain it to you by drawing the document. That would be more easier to understand. Give me a minute. Just mm, Okay, so yeah, okay, it's working now. That's sync now. So I was telling you guys about the position property. Okay, the position property in CSS. So suppose this is your HTML document, for example. This particular column is your HTML document, right? Here you have the title and everything. This is your like browser tab, and this is opened, and you have something here. So this is a simple format of your browser tab, and this is the blank white screen that you see. This particular portion is the blank white screen that you see right now. Now let's suppose you have a div here. Okay, let's take this div with blue. Let's suppose you have a div here. Okay, it's positioned somewhat here, not very far from the line. Let's suppose it's positioned somewhat here at the top left point. This is my div, and this is positioned somewhat here, right? So the region in which my div is being specified is referred to as the position of element. Okay, right now if you see very closely from top, okay, from top, my div is positioned as 0 pixels. Okay, there is no space between the top and the div. Okay, and if you see very closely, here also this is the left, right? So from left part there is no space, so again it is positioned at a 0 value. Now let's suppose you want to change these values. You want to change these top values and the left value, and you want to position it somewhere else on the desktop. Like let's suppose you want your div to be positioned somewhat here. Okay, you want your div to be positioned somewhat here. So how can I move this? So this particular position is, for example, I'm not sure, but let's suppose this has a top value of 20 pixels. Okay, and this has a left value. I have shifted it left, so it has a left value of 50 pixels. Okay, so how can I achieve this? How can I shift this? If I simply write top and like left 50 pixels, nothing will happen. Let me show it to you also once. Uh, mhm. Okay, so let's suppose I have this div, and inside this I have a heading. I am a div. Okay, this is the brown div that I was referring to right now. This particular div. Okay, this is the brown div. Let me change. Let me remove the opacity from here. Index.css. Okay, so I will remove the opacity from here and bring the transparency back. Okay, so this is my div, and what I want is right now it's from top, it's like very far away from the top. So what I will do, I will bring it to the top left part. I will comment everything from here. Only my div is present on the web page, right? So right now it's at top and left portion. Okay, and yeah, give me a minute. Yeah, so width and height and border is being specified to it. Now what I want is, I want to shift it from top to, let's suppose, 20 pixels. Okay, and let's see what happens. If I click on refresh, you can see very clearly nothing has changed, right? I wanted it to shift from top 20 pixels, but nothing has happened, right? Then what is give me a minute, someone is spamming, right? uh, Give me a minute. Let me kick them out. Okay, I have uh yeah. Okay, let's continue further. Uh yeah, okay, now it's fine. Now let's get back and what we were discussing. Right, yeah. So if I have to add the top of 20 pixels, so nothing will happen. Okay. Why? Because I have not added the position property here. If you see very clearly what all things that I am describing here, right? So we have not added the position property here. So nothing will happen. Now let me add position relative property. Okay, and I click on refresh here, go back to my web page. You can see now it has shifted 20 pixels at the bottom. So one important thing to note here is that uh, as soon as I have added the position relative property, it has shifted 20 pixels from the top. So before specifying where you want it, you have to specify the position property, what exactly you want. So what this means, position relative keeps the element in the flow of the document. Okay, it will keep the element in the flow of the document, like it will, that our element will stay where it was. Like if it was displayed here, it will be displayed like that, but we can offset it. What is the meaning of offset? We can change the values of top, left, and wherever it is positioned accordingly. Like I can add a top value and left value to it. Okay, relative to itself, what it means, relative to itself, relative to itself means like top relative to itself. If I wanted to shift 20 pixels at the bottom, right, so I will say shift 20 pixels at the bottom from where you were positioned before. Okay, shift 20 pixels from top where you were previously. Okay, so it will shift 20 pixels accordingly at the bottom. Okay, so if I say shift 50 pixels left from where you were before, so I will write here, yeah, so I will write here shift left or to, let's suppose 50 pixels. Okay, and I go back, I click on refresh. So you can see now from top it has shifted 20 pixels and from left it has shifted 50 pixels. Okay, so that's how we can use the position relative property, and I hope you all are able to understand what is the meaning of relative here, right? Relative to itself, it will stay where it was, but as soon as we apply the top and left properties to it, we'll be able to move it here and there on the document. Okay, we can also use negative values to offset in other direction. So for example, if I, in place of left top 20 pixels, if I say minus 20 pixels, so let's see what happens. Okay, if I refresh this, you can see that now it has gone up to 20 pixels in the opposite direction to top. So if you want to make it go to opposite direction, you can use negative sign also. Okay, similarly for left, if I use minus 50 pixels and I click on refresh, so you can see now it has shifted 50 pixels in the opposite direction to the left part. Okay, similar to this, I have two more values. Now let me change it back to 0. Okay, and I have changed it to 0, and I have also changed this to 0. If I go back and I click on refresh, then it's back at the designated place. Now in place of left, I can also use uh, right. Okay, so if I say right, from right position, stay at 0 pixels. Okay, so if I refresh this, you can see nothing is being changed, right? Because it's not at the right part. And if I say it let's say bottom, let's see if we are able to change anything. Bottom 0 0 pixels. Okay, or let me go back, click on refresh. So yeah, nothing will happen because it will stay at its designated place. So yeah, this part is clear. We can specify these four positions accordingly relative to its previous position. Okay, now position relative property is not used a lot of times in our code. Okay, why? For positioning, because it is generally applied to the parent container and absolutely positioned. I will explain to you what this lines means in a minute. Okay, so for now, I have told you about the position relative property. Let's study about the position static property. Okay, now if we go back to this particular code, okay, and if I try scrolling down, you might be able to see some difference. Okay, if you scroll down, you see one is being displayed continuously at the top, right? It was there at the start, but it is now coming scrolling down. How we can achieve this is what we are going to like study now. So if I open the styles.css of this particular file, and you see very closely, I have specified position sticky to my child one. I will change it back to static. I will go back and I will click on refresh. If I scroll down, nothing is happening. Everything is at its designated place. So position static, give me a minute. Okay, so what I was saying was by default, the position properties of the element is static. Okay, if you look very closely, by default, all the elements position is static in our code. So when position is static, you won't be able to do any offsetting. Like you won't be able to shift it from here and there. So see here, top 0 is written, and if I change it to 10 pixels, for example, nothing will happen because its position is static. It will not move from anywhere, like it will not go anywhere. So even if you don't write position static, by default your browser will understand that the position of element is static. Okay, now let me change it back to something else. Okay, I hope you guys are able to understand that. Give me a minute. Yeah, so these are not the notes. uh, Position notes and styles.css. Okay, let me move it here. Okay, yeah, so this is by default. Okay, top, right, bottom, left, and z index. One more thing which we'll like study what exactly it is after some time. They have no effect on your element. No matter whatever thing you write, nothing will be changed. It is by default. Position relative, you can use these particular values. Okay, now position absolute. Let me write position absolute here and show it to you what will happen. Okay, if we go back and I click on refresh, so you can see one has been changed from its location. Okay, so let me explain it to you how absolute positioning works. I told you about how position relative works. Now let me explain you how position absolute works. So suppose this is your div. Okay, and let me just remove the values, all of these things here. Okay, it is also okay. Okay, so this is your div having a top value as 0. Okay, and the left value also as 0. So now you have one more div below this. Okay, this is your another div. It also has it will have some, let's say, top value of something and a left value of something. I, let's suppose assume this. Now if I add position relative to this particular div, okay, it will not move anywhere. Okay, it will not go anywhere. But if I add position absolute to it, okay, position absolute to it, then it will move out of the flow of the HTML document. It will move out. It will not be, it will no longer be here. Okay. And this div, this red div, will take its place like there was nothing before. Okay. This div will take its place, and it will, the previous div will go out of the flow of the document. Okay. Out of the flow of document. Okay, so what this means is uh, this div will continue to behave as if there is nothing else on the screen. Okay, this will move anywhere you want. So that is what is happening. This has overlapped the parent and two, three. These child divs have taken the place of one, and one is moving as if there is nothing on the screen. Okay, only one is present. Fine. So if I change the top value to, I have changed the top value to 10 pixel. Let me show it to you by changing it to 60 pixels, for example. If I refresh here, so you can see this has now, this is like moving as if behind this, behind one, there is nothing, right? And if I change it to relative, you look very closely. If I change it to relative, for example, and I click on refresh, so you can see the space that was dedicated to one previously is coming, right? This blank space, if I zoom it a little bit, this blank space is coming, which says that there was something here, but it has now moved at the bottom. But if I write here absolute, see very closely, there is no space for one now. Okay, so this is one very important distinction to make, that when you use position relative, it will stay in the flow of the HTML document. If you define it very technical, in very technical terms, it will stay in the flow of the HTML document. Only you will be able to move it. But if you write here absolute, okay, then it will move out of the, your element will move out of the flow of the HTML document, and you will be able to offset it, like add top left and all the values. I hope this part is clear to all of you. And yeah, specifically also I can add 50 pixel value from the left, and I click on refresh, so you can see now it has moved to 50 pixels on the left part. So that's what I can also do using the position absolute property. So that is what I have explained here. The element is removed from the flow of the document and no space is given to it. Okay, everything else in the document is rendered as if the element that we have added the absolute property never existed. Okay, now absolute position position absolutely positions an element inside the parent container. Okay, this is one more important thing, that position absolute is applied with respect to, like absolute positioning started with respect to its parent. Okay, so if you look very closely, let's suppose I just remove this, and suppose this is my web page. Okay, and here I have uh, a div. Okay, here I have a div, and I have added position property as absolute here. Okay, so the top value, if I specify it as 10 pixel, this div does not have any parent element here. Okay, this div does not have any parent. Its immediate parent is the HTML root of the HTML, or I can say HTML document. Root of the HTML document is this div's parent. Okay, so the top value and left value that we are specifying here will be according to the root of the HTML document. Okay, but one more important part is, if I say I have this particular document. Okay, I have this particular document and I have this div inside. I have this blue div inside another div. Okay, I have this div inside, this is another div. Okay, now if you look very closely, this pink div is the parent, and this small div, blue div, is the child. Okay, now what you will do, if you add here, if you give position relative to the parent. Okay, and you give position absolute to the child. Okay, then your this particular div will have its top, left, bottom and right values according to its parent. Okay, according to this div. So that is what I was trying to specify here. Okay, this will now no longer be according to top and left value. Let me show it to you also by writing the code. Suppose I have this div. Okay, this is inside, I am inside div, and let me also add another div inside this, and I say it, what I can say, mm, child div. Okay, child div, and let me give it a class of child. Okay, and let me give this div a class of parent. Okay, this is child div and this is parent. I will quickly go to styles.css. This is not the style.css. I think this is. Okay, so now okay, so I will remove this div code from here. Okay, and I will say the parent should have a width of 500 pixels and height of 500 pixels. The background color of the parent will be black. Okay, let's go back, click on refresh. Okay, so 500 pixels width and height, parent I have shown here. Now I will add some style to the child div. Okay, so I will write here dot child. Here the width of child will be 300 pixels and the height will be 300 pixels. Okay, and let me give it a background color of red. Okay, let me click on refresh. So you can see I have the parent Okay, I am inside div and this is the child div of the parent. And why it's below? Because it has some heading. Let me also remove this for better clarity. Okay, now you have a parent div and inside that you have a child div. Okay, now if I add, this is the child div. Now let's say I add position absolute to it. Okay, let me click on refresh. Oh, sorry. Yeah, let me click on refresh. Nothing is happening. Now let me specify top and bottom values. I will say top to be 10 pixels. Okay, and left to be 10 pixels. And I click on refresh. So now you can see it has moved 10 pixels from, not from the parent value. This is not 10 pixels, right? It has moved 10 pixels from in with respect to the HTML document. Okay, let me show it to you once. Yeah, let me make it margin 30 pixels from everywhere. I have shifted it a little bit. I have shifted the parent a little bit. Okay, for better clarity. Now what I will do is, yeah, let me comment this out once. Okay, so it's here now. Now I am going to add position absolute property to it. Let me remove this and comment this out. Okay, I have added position absolute to child. Let's see what happens. Nothing. Okay, top and left value specified as 10 pixels. Let me refresh this. So you can see it has come from 10 pixels from the root of the HTML or the main HTML document, not with respect to parent, right? Now, if I write in the parent position relative and I click on refresh, so you can see that now it's taking 10 pixels from its parent. So wherever in the parent you will write position relative, then your absolute positioning will work according to that parent only. By writing position relative, you can change the parent of your child. Okay, if you have not specified this, then position absolute will work according to what we can say, according to root. Okay, now let's suppose I want to create a div, and inside div I want to create a circle at the center. Okay, I want to create this. So let me just yeah, okay, this I have this parent and child property, and I will remove these position values. Okay, position relative value I've also removed. Fine, this is now here. Now I want this child div to be a circle and be at the center. So what I can do here is I can add border radius of 100%. In that way this will change to a circle. Okay, now I want it to be at the center, position at the center. Okay, so now what I can do, I can add position absolute. Okay, nothing will happen, and here I will add, let me show also you this. If I say top 50% and left 50%, if I go back, make it 100% and I click on refresh, you can see a very important thing, which is your child div is at the center, like from top 50% from the top, 50% from the left, at the center of the document. Why? Because I have not specified the position relative property to my parent, and this position absolute is positioning the elements by default from the root of the HTML. Now as soon as I write position relative here, its immediate parent will be this black div. Okay, and I refresh this. Now it's taking 50% left and top and left according to the parent that we have specified this. So I hope this part is clear to all of you. I can also change it for, if I want to like bring it very much to the center. So let's specify this as somewhat 25%, and this also 25%, and I click on refresh. So now I am able to position it according to my immediate parent. Okay, so this part is important. Now next what we have position fixed. Okay, position fixed is also very similar to absolute. The only difference is that fixed position elements will stay in the same place even if we scroll down. Okay, so if you see this, I will show you with this particular example. Let me open this styles.css, and here my position relative parent is there, and I add here position fixed. Okay, and save this, and I can remove this. Okay, let me click on refresh. So now I have one here, right? And if I scroll down, you can see one is there only. So this is generally used to create navigation bars that are displayed on the top of the websites. See, it's not moving anywhere. In place of fixed, I can also write sticky. This is another position property. So if you write sticky here, nothing will happen, right? So all of these things you can do, you can perform, and you can play around with it a little bit. So these are the important position properties. Give me a minute. Okay. So I think uh, we have covered all the position properties up till now, right? Now we'll move with the transitions part, and we won't be like working around a lot. If you want, you can take the screenshot of this and practice a little bit, so that will be good to go. Okay, then revise all of these things for a minute, and then we'll continue further. Okay, take the screenshot of this, and then we'll continue further. Okay. Okay, so I hope you guys have taken the screenshot of this. Now, in CSS, there are some of the things that are still left that we have to like cover. One of them is the transitions part, how we can achieve the transitions and how we can do the transform properties, right? And the background. So let me explain it to you very quickly and then we'll move to the JavaScript part. Okay, so give me a minute. Yeah, so I'll not do the coding part here since it will take a lot of time. I'll explain it to you step by step. So first of all, what you have to do, you have to create this particular HTML file which has section, okay, section, and this is the first section which has some of the headings, okay, this button and everything, and you have another section. Okay, now let me copy the path and paste it here. Okay, so you can see there are a lot of transform me and these LOL buttons somewhat doing something on the screen, like these are very looking very different, right? So let me open the CSS file also and the notes. So transforms. What are the CSS transforms? So we can rotate things, we can scale the things, we can stretch them, or we can move them in the code. Like we can create elements and we can do all of these stuff with them. Okay. So if I say margin 0 and auto, what this means, with a block level element, if left and right margins are auto, okay, so they are centered in their container. Okay, so if you will write in block elements margin 0 and auto, then they will be at the center of their container. Fine. Now, if you write rotate, okay, by what angle you have to specify, degree, radian, and turns. Okay, you can define it like this. So you can say transform origin, and then you will say rotate x, and it rotates about the x-axis. You say rotate y, it will rotate about the y-axis, and rotate z, this will rotate about the z-axis. Let me also show it to you with the code. Okay, so now what you have to do here is, see, this is your transform attribute, style attribute, and you have added rotate 30-degree here. Okay, and you have used the nth of type. So what is this nth of type? This is your h1. Okay, so there are a lot of h1. If you go to your index.html file, you will see that we have lot of yeah. So see, we have lot of h1 here. Here also, like we have 8 h1. Okay, and here also we have multiple of 8, like 2n, 3n, and 4n. Okay, so what this will do, this will add multiple of like it will add the background color to multiple of 2h1. Okay, to suppose if you have applied this here, so it will add next style will be added here, then next style will be added here, then next, so this is 2n, and then we have for 3n. You can check this out, practice around, and you'll be able to understand it more clearly. Okay, for transforming or rotating it by some degrees, like it's specified here, this is rotated by 30-degree, this particular transform me. So this is rotate by 30 degrees. Okay, transform origin you have to specify, like from top left, starting from top left, this will go to 30 degrees at the bottom. Okay, you can also use rotate z. Then you can also specify the scale, you can also specify the translate x property, and you can also skew this. So nth of type 1, here skew 30 degrees specified. So let me show you the skew. This is the skew part. Okay, this particular thing, you can skew this also. Okay, then we have different more skew, like skew 10-degree and 5-degree, rotate, translate, and you can do a lot of stuff with this. Okay, so just practice with the transform property. It's very advanced and it's also not used that much, but you should know about this. Okay, Next up we have the background property. So suppose you want to add background image, so you can use this particular attribute similar to what we were doing previously, and you can add URL to it of the image, and then you will be able to get that image on your background. Okay, you can add background size of cover, so this will cover your whole entire width of the screen. And if you want to repeat the background, then you can use the background repeat value. These are all the some basic things about the background. Okay, see here, if I go open this particular index.html file, I paste it here, so you can see I am getting some background, right? This is the background image. If I change the value to background size, see I have specified here 150 pixels and 500 pixels. If I say background size should be cover, and I go back, click on refresh, then you can see it has covered the entire width of the div. Okay, width of the div. And I can also say contain. If I will specify contain here, then this will be how much like size of the image is there, it will contain that only. And if I say background repeat, so it's repeating in the y direction. So if I specify repeat in the x direction, let's see what happens. So you see background is repeating now. If I just change it to back to 150 and 500 pixels, and I say repeat in the x direction, okay, I refresh this, you can see now background is repeating in the x direction. So I hope this part is clear to all of you. And with this, the CSS part that we had to study is completed now. One important thing that you have to go through on your own, I will suggest, is the transitions in CSS. You can write it somewhere, the transition property in CSS, and the transform property in CSS. Okay, I have added one link also. Let me open this. Okay, so these are some ease in functions that you can see after when you will be able to use them. Okay, so some ease out cubic, and there are a lot of functions here. Okay, you can look for it, ease out shine, and a lot of them you can look at it. They are very helpful. Okay, this is ease out bounce also. See, there are a lot of animations that you can check this out. Okay, you can check this out. This particular website is easings.net. Okay, you can go through this. Then okay, now we are going to start with the JavaScript part. Okay, if you guys have any doubts, you can ask, otherwise we'll move forward. Any doubts? Okay, now we'll quickly start with the JavaScript part. Okay, now what exactly is JavaScript? So as I already told you that we have some of the like if I tell you very plainly, uh, I have to show you how we can, okay, how we can use transition. Give me a minute, I will run this in a new window. Let me just explain it to you once, that would be more better, I guess. Give me a minute. Okay, CSS part, we had the introduction to CSS part. transitions. Hmm. Okay. So this is your HTML code. For example, what I have done here is I have defined 4 divs here. Let me open this. Or wait a second. You have added a link of your style.css file. This is your style.css. You have added a link here, and you have defined the heading transition. You have defined a div named circle, and you have inside the section added 4 divs. Okay, this is your plain HTML code. See it very clearly, and if you face any doubt you can ask. Okay, now we have done this. Now the next part is we go to CSS part, and if you see very clearly, I have given a class of circle to one div and added the style: width 300 pixel, height 300 pixel, background color is magenta. Okay, this circle div background color is magenta, and on hover, I want, as soon as I hover on this circle, the background color should change to cyan and border radius should be 50%. One new thing that we have here is we have added a transition property, and we have added the transition property to background color. Okay, so what you specify here is where you want to add the transition or where you want to add the change. So you have added the change to background color. That it means you want to change the background color for a duration of 1 seconds, and also you want to change the border radius for a duration of 3 seconds. What I will do, I will remove this border radius part and I will only go with background color. So this is saying transition background color 1 second. Let me open this part and close this and open it here. Okay, so if you are able to see, I have this particular div with magenta color, and yeah, this circle div with magenta color, and in styles.css, on hovering, let me just change this. I am changing the background color to cyan color. Okay, and I have added this transition to background color 1 second. Okay, now if I refresh this, you can see for a duration of 1 second it's changing. If I don't specify this 1 second, let's see what happens. This will be very quick, right? So I can specify duration here. I can say 5 seconds. So this background will continue changing for 5 seconds. Right? Is this part clear? So I can change it back to 1 second. And if I want on hovering, I wanted to change the border radius also. Right? So I can do that also. I can refresh this, and you can say at an instance background radius changed to 50%, and color is also changing for a duration of 1 second. Now what I want is, I don't want this border radius to change very quick. So what I can do, I can add comma here, and I can say border radius transition should also be present on border radius, and this should be for a duration of 3 seconds, for example. Okay, yeah. Okay, now if I refresh and I go back, you can see now my border radius is changing very slowly. Okay, this is how we can add transitions to our code. Now these some are sections div. Okay, these are some example of section div. What they are doing, they have a height of 100 pixel, width of 100 pixels, all of them, and background color of turquoise, margin 20 pixels, top and bottom, and 0 on left and right. And I have added transition of from margin left. Okay, transition of margin left. So when I hover on a div, then margin left will be 500 pixels. Okay, this I have specified. Now I have defined the nth of type. So for div nth of type 1, that is the first div. Okay, this will have a transition timing function. Transition timing function will be ease in. Okay, what is the mean of transition timing function? First this will happen, then this will happen, then third one, and the fourth one. So this is the transition timing function. And if I say nth of type 2, then this will be ease out. If I say nth of type 3, it will be like this. So let me just show it to you. If I hover on my section, okay, if I hover on my section, then this should work. As soon as I hover on my section, you can see these all are moving differently. So that's how I can add transitions to our code. Okay, I hope this transition part is clear. Try practicing this on your own, then you will be good to go. Now let's start with the JavaScript part. So what is JavaScript actually? Like I also told you earlier, that JavaScript is not like HTML is not a programming language, right? We cannot do calculations in that. Then how we can build something where we want to use calculations? For example, if I want to create a toggle which will take plus minus values, or let's suppose, how can I show it to you? Let's suppose I want to build a calculator. Let me check if I have some project here. No, I don't have it right now. Okay, let's suppose what I want to do is I want to add two numbers. So if I am using HTML only, I won't be able to do that. At any cost, I won't be able to add these two numbers. So for doing mathematical calculations, for performing different operations on the website, we use JavaScript. Okay, by now adding JavaScript to our HTML and CSS code is plainly very simple. What we have to do, we have to simply write our HTML code, okay, and below the body, okay, body at the most bottom section, not at the top, at the bottom section. Why at the bottom section? Because if your script is written at the bottom, then your JavaScript will run after your HTML document has been rendered. Okay, so when you render first script, you'll be able to run your JavaScript file. So you have to write script, source, the name of your JavaScript file, and the closing tag. So this is how you can join your JavaScript. And if we go to JavaScript and I comment this out, okay, and I save this, let me open this HTML file in my code. So you can see I have this first script written, that is here. Okay, now let's check if JavaScript is working. So there is a function in JavaScript which is known as alert. Okay, and I say alert, hello, I am running JavaScript. I hit save, go back, click on refresh. So if you are able to see, I am able to get a alert on my browser, right? I am able to get an alert. So this shows that our JavaScript file has now connected, right? Now in this code, what I am doing, I am calculating some value. Okay, now one by one, and I'll explain everything. Let me write. There is another function in JavaScript which is console.log. Okay, and I say hello, I am inside console. Okay, let me go back, click on refresh, and I click on inspect, open this, and if I go to console, you can see that I am able to display from app.js13. I am able to display hello, I am inside console. Okay, I hope this part is clear to all of you. Now let's understand a little bit of theory about JavaScript. Okay, so again, you can go to JavaScript W3 Schools documentation and you can study JavaScript from there. Okay, so if you go to JavaScript W3 Schools, so JavaScript comes under the world's most popular programming language. Okay, it's a language for the web. Okay, and it's very easy to learn, and they have specified that. Okay, it's comparatively easier than C++ and Java. So if we can do lot of operations, okay, if I say click me to display the date and time, so you can do this. By using HTML, it's not possible to do these calculations, right? We can say show the date and they are displaying date and time. We can also use this menu bar, right? Like we can do this, these are things of the nav bar, we can do perform these, and we can do plainly a lot of things. JavaScript brings life to our website. Okay, now why to study JavaScript? So JavaScript is one of the three basic languages that all web developers must learn. Okay, the first one is the HTML that we have completed, next is the CSS, and the third one is the JavaScript. Okay, so to program the behavior of how our web page will work. So now this tutorial will cover, they are saying that, and everything. Okay, now let's go to the introduction part. Okay, now this part is complete. Okay, so one of the many JavaScript HTML method is get element by ID. Okay, so if I go to try it out yourself, so they have given a very good format to check if how our code is running. So they have written plainly HTML, as you can see, right? And they have added button, type button, and on click. So on click means it's an event handler. So there are a lot of event handlers that we have, and on click they are saying document dot get element by ID. So get any element by the ID and change the inner HTML to hello JavaScript. Okay, and on this particular button. So if I just click on run and I click on click me, so you can see I am able to change this particular value, right? Click me, I'm able to change that by simply accessing document is the HTML document dot get element by ID is the demo dot inner HTML, click me. So that's how we can perform calculations or perform different, like bringing life to our code, right? Now it can also change HTML attribute values. Okay, so if you see it very clearly, if I say turn on the light, then this will be done. So if you see how this is working, this is very simple. Okay, we have this HTML code, and on button I have document dot get element by ID, right? And ID is my image. Okay, my image, source pick bulb on GIF. So pick bulb on GIF is an image, right? And on image which has a yellow color inside this, and pick bulb off is an image which is like this. So what they are doing is, see pick bulb of GIF and width is 100 pixel, and similarly a different one. Okay, now if I click on this particular button, turn on the light. So turn on the light button, if I click on it, it's saying document dot get element by ID my image, and src will change to pick bulb on GIF. Okay, now if I click on it, then I will get some another image. If I click on turn off the light and I say document dot get element by ID pick bulb off dot GIF, so if I click on this, then next image will come. So that's how this working, it's nothing else, right? So you can do this, play around with this stuff. Okay, so don't be overwhelmed with all of this. Like I'm explaining you why to use JavaScript, we'll learn how we can build all of this step by step. Okay, don't get overwhelmed, like don't get confused what we are studying right now. Okay, so like how they are selecting the values in the HTML, we can do a lot of things here. Okay, so if I say document dot get element by ID, first of all what I can do, I can change the inner HTML. So there are a lot of things, document dot get element by, let me check, they might be having it somewhere. I might be having it in my code somewhere. No, give me a minute. Okay, so I don't think they have it. So for now, what we'll do, we'll go with the inner HTML. So for now, just understand, in place of get element by ID, I can also use get element by tag name. Okay, in place of get element by ID, I can use get element by, was written here, yeah, it was written get element by ID. I can say get element by class also. Okay, and in place of ID here, I will say class will be demo class. Okay, and I can access it from here. I will say demo class. And now if I say dot inner HTML, change it to hello JavaScript. Okay, and I run here, click me, then give me a minute, demo class is there but it's not working as expected. I think their browser is not working correctly. But for now, you just try to understand that we can change it by get element by ID also, and we can change it by get element by tag name also. We can also change the style of our document. Okay, so if I select document or get element by ID demo, and I want to change the style, and in style also I can define what style exactly do I have to change. So if I say document dot get element by ID demo dot style dot font size to 35 pixels. Okay, so this will happen. Let me run and let me click on it. So you can see I am able to change the font size of my text. Okay, font size of my demo paragraph. So I can also change the style. I can also specify here color. Okay, so if I say color to be color to be, let's check if it's working or not. They might not be having it, like, yeah, so we are not able to do this in their browser. Okay, but if you try running this command, uh, where it has gone, yeah, if you try running this by in your code and in your website, you will be able to change the color, like change the style attribute to blue. You will be able to change this text color to blue. Okay, just try doing this on your own. We can also hide the elements. We can use document or get element by ID, style, display, none. Okay, so whatever thing you were doing, you can do this from here. But we don't do styling by using these methods because it's not a very good practice using these commands for styling for CSS. So you can access them, you can check them, but don't do styling using the JavaScript part. Okay, now script tag, I have already defined you about how we can do this part, script part. Okay, and what else we can do, yeah, function header body. So you can also specify function here, and you can call this function by calling this in the button. Okay, so inside, you first create a script tag inside the head portion if you want it to be displayed in the HTML document only. So you can say specify a function of my function, and inside this function what you are going to do, you can access the document by ID and change the inner HTML to paragraph change. Let me show it to you once. So this is our HTML document. You have created a script tag, and inside the script tag, what you are doing, you are creating a function in JavaScript. This is the syntax of creating a function. You write function, this is the name of the function, you can name it anything you want, then these parentheses, and you will specify what you have to do inside this function. So here we are saying document.get element by ID demo, and change the inner HTML to paragraph changed. Okay, now in the button, I will say on click, this is event handler, and on click I want to change it to my function. Okay, I want this my function to run. So let's try it. If I click on try it, you can see the inner HTML has changed after clicking on try it. So that's how we can work with the event handler. So this is the basic starting of JavaScript. uh, let me explain you everything step by step with my code. Okay, let me open this again. Okay, now first script, and this is my app.js part. Okay, I am console logging. Hello, I am inside console. Now let's suppose I want to add two numbers. Okay, so what I can do, I can use let a is equal to 1. Now what is let? Let is known as a variable. Okay, let me explain you different types of variables. So we have variables in JavaScript. So there are basically three types of variables that we have in JavaScript. The first one is the var, the second one is the let, and the third one is the const. Now var and let have the same use, like they are used similarly. The only thing is that var is outdated. Okay, so we don't use it that often. Let is used a lot in older versions of the browser, and const is also used. Now if I say let uh, a is equal to 1, so what this would mean, that I have specified a let, okay, variable. It's saying suppose, or it's saying initialize. This is the variable name. Okay, variable name, and this is the value. So what will happen if I write this particular line? A will store a value of 1. Okay, a will store a value of 1. And what if I write const a is equal to 1? This will also do the same job. This is the variable, this is the variable name, and this is the declaration, the number that we have. So what exactly is the difference between let and const? Okay, so let if I want to change the value of a later on in my code, suppose I want to make it 3 later on in my code, then by using let I can change it afterwards, I can change the value afterwards. Okay, but if I am using const, okay, and I want to change the value, I won't be able to do this. Okay, so if you have something that, if you want to change the value of a later on in the code after you have initialized it, so in that case you will use let. But if you don't want to change the value of a later on in your code, you will use const. Okay, I hope this part is clear to all of you. Okay, now, so here I have done what? I have specified let. I will also I will now console log a. Okay, now console log, I will be able to see it in my console. Let me open this console. Okay, so it's displaying hello, I am inside console, and if I refresh this, I am getting the value of a, right? Value of a is 1, and I'm getting that. Now I can specify another number also, b equal to 4, and I console log it. Console log b. Now I'm able to console log a and b. I can also perform calculations on this. So I can say let sum is equal to a plus b. Okay, and if I console log sum, then I'll be able to get the sum here, 1 plus 4. Okay, I can also create difference of them, like I can say difference equal to a minus b, and consequently I can console log this. Similar for multiplication, division, and everything. I can do these. Okay, so these are some of the calculations that I can do. So here what is happening right now, if we look at this particular code, so we have total equal to 1 plus 3. Okay, and I'm console logging hello from our first JavaScript code, goodbye. And if I console log this total, I will get a value 4, right? So that's how we can do that. There is also some functions, math functions, that we can use in JavaScript. For example, this is a math dot random function in JavaScript. Let's, if I just console log x here and go to the console, click on refresh, so you can see I am getting some random number. I refresh this, and I refresh this, I'll get some random number. So this is some example of a random number generator, right? We can use this. And if here also I can add some if else conditions also. Okay, so if I say if the value of x is less than 5, so it will say you can drink, otherwise it will say no. So every time my value of x is less than 0.5, it's saying you can drink, otherwise no. So you can also add if else conditions to it. So that's how JavaScript works. Okay, now truthiness and falseness is completed. Now I think for today this part is enough. For the for the tomorrow's session, I guess we'll continue with the JavaScript part. We'll try developing calculator app. Okay, we'll try developing calculator app including HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then we'll try running that. Okay, or some other project, I'll look into it, and then we'll build it tomorrow, and we'll study some theoretical and basic part of the node and the HTTP requests. Okay, if you guys have any doubts, you can ask in the chat box. Okay, guys, I think we can end the session now. Thank you all for your time. Have a nice day.